It all started on a quiet Thursday evening, the kind where nothing unusual is supposed to happen. I was sitting in the living room half watching the news, half scrolling through my phone, when my stepdaughter Lily came into the room. She looked nervous, fidgety even. First, I didn't think much of it. Teenagers always have something on their minds, right? But then she said something that immediately made my heart race. She leaned in and whispered, "This stays between us, right?" And before I could respond, she walked over and locked the door. That single moment changed everything. Lily has always been a quiet, smart, and respectful girl. We've had our fair share of bonding moments over the years, but we've also kept a bit of distance. That unspoken line between step-parent and stepchild that sometimes just never fully disappears. She's 17 now, and like most girls her age, she's been growing more private, more independent. I never thought much of it. I respected her space. But when she looked at me that night, there was something different in her eyes. Something between fear and urgency. My instincts kicked in. I could tell this wasn't going to be a normal conversation. I asked her what was going on gently. She hesitated. For a second, I thought she might change her mind, but then she sat down across from me and started talking. Fast, like she'd been rehearsing the words in her head for hours. I could see her hands trembling slightly, and I knew she was carrying something heavy. What she told me next wasn't anything I was prepared for. No parent, step or not, ever is. I found myself caught between wanting to protect her and trying to figure out how far I should go in keeping a promise of secrecy. When a teenager says, "This stays between us," it sounds innocent. But sometimes, it's the beginning of a very complicated road. I wish I could say it was something simple like a crush or a school prank gone wrong. But it wasn't. It was something deeper. Something that made me question whether silence would protect her or hurt her. As she kept talking, I realized this wasn't just a private confession. It was a cry for help, carefully hidden behind a casual tone and a locked door. And that's where I found myself. In a moment where every decision felt like it mattered more than I was ready for. Do I keep her trust? Do I get someone else involved? How much do I push without breaking the fragile connection we had? Because here's the thing. Sometimes the people you think you know the best are carrying secrets that could change everything. What she revealed that night. Well, I still haven't fully wrapped my head around it. But I knew one thing for sure. Nothing about our relationship or our family would be the same after that conversation. And what she asked me to do next. That's where the real story begins. Lily looked at me, waiting for some kind of reaction, but I couldn't speak right away. My mind was racing, trying to process everything she had just told me. The room suddenly felt smaller, quieter. The sound of the ticking clock on the wall became loud in the silence. I could see how scared she was, even though she tried to play it cool. Her words kept replaying in my head, like an echo I couldn't shut off. She'd started by saying it was nothing serious, just something she needed to get off her chest. But by the time she finished, I knew this wasn't something that could just be brushed under the rug. There were too many layers, too many unanswered questions. She had mentioned someone. Not by name, just him. And the way she said it, it made my stomach twist. Her tone had changed mid-sentence, like she was unsure whether to keep going or stop. She'd glance at the door every now and then, like she was afraid someone might be listening. I asked her who he was. She shook her head and said, "I can't tell you that. Not yet." That's when I realized she was testing me. Seeing if I could handle the truth, if I would stay calm and keep my word. But how could I promise not to say anything when I didn't even know the full story? Still, I didn't want to push her too hard. I was afraid if I did, she'd shut down completely. She started talking about school, about how lately things had felt off, like someone was always watching her. She'd find things moved in her locker, or hear whispers as she walked down the hallway. At first, she thought it was just her imagination. But then there were the messages, notes left in her backpack and one time on her bedroom window. That last part really made my chest tighten. Her bedroom is on the second floor. Who could have reached it? I asked her why she hadn't come to us sooner. She just looked down and said, "Because I didn't think anyone would believe me." That broke my heart. I've always tried to be there for her, but maybe I missed signs. Maybe I didn't ask enough questions, didn't check in often enough. It's easy to think teens want space, until something like this happens and you realize maybe they just needed someone to notice. She finally looked up at me and said, "I need you to trust me right now, even if you don't understand everything yet." I nodded, but inside I was battling with 100 thoughts. Who was this person she wouldn't name? What did they want? And how long had this been going on? Just as I was about to ask another question, we heard a sound from upstairs. A faint creak like a footstep. Lily froze. Her eyes widened and she whispered, "He's not supposed to be here tonight." I stood up immediately, heart pounding, trying to figure out what she meant. But before I could move toward the door, she grabbed my arm and said, "Please, don't leave me alone." And in that moment, I knew we were in deeper than I ever imagined. I didn't move. Neither did Lily. We both stood there, holding our breath, trying to listen. Another faint creak. This time closer. Stairs. It could have been the house settling. It's old, it makes noises sometimes, but the timing felt too exact, too deliberate. I looked at her and she was pale, her eyes locked on the ceiling like she could see through it. I mouthed, "Is someone here?" She didn't answer. She just gave me a slight terrified nod. I quietly unlocked the door and stepped into the hallway, trying not to make a sound. Lily followed behind me, her footsteps soft. I wasn't sure what I was even looking for. I didn't have a plan. I just knew something felt wrong. The hallway light flickered slightly. It always did that, but tonight, it made everything feel more unreal. I walked to the bottom of the stairs and looked up. Nothing. Just silence. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I jumped, nearly dropping it. I checked the screen. A text from my wife, Lily's mom. "Running late. Be home in 20. I stared at those words for a second, feeling suddenly very alone in the house. I showed the message to Lily. She didn't say anything, just gripped my arm a little tighter. We decided not to go upstairs just yet. We went back into the room, locked the door again, and I asked her straight up, "Is someone messing with you? Is this a prank?" "A friend." She looked hurt by the question. "You really think I'd make this up?" she said quietly. I felt awful, but I had to ask. Things weren't adding up, and the more she kept avoiding details, the more confused I got. That's when she told me something new. This wasn't the first time she'd heard noises upstairs at night. And it wasn't the first time she thought someone had been inside the house. I started thinking about all the small things we brushed off lately. The back door left cracked. The porch light flickering. The screen window in the laundry room that looked a little bent. All things we shrugged off as normal. But maybe they weren't. Maybe someone had been watching, coming and going without us ever knowing. I asked Lily if she told anyone else, her friends, a teacher, even her mom. She shook her head. "No one would take it seriously," she said. "And if I told Mom, she'd panic." That might have been true, but this was getting too serious to ignore. I felt caught in the middle, trying to protect Lily while not alarming her mother until I had more answers. Just then she handed me something from her backpack. A folded piece of paper. It had no name, no date. Just 6 words scrawled in messy handwriting. "You're not safe in that house." I stared at it, feeling the chill run down my back. Lily watched me carefully. "I found it in my math book last week," she said. "I didn't tell anyone. Not even you. Until now." There was a knock at the front door. One sharp knock. And everything went quiet again. The knock echoed through the house like a warning. Just one. Sharp. Then silence. I looked at Lily. Her face had gone completely still, like she was holding her breath. I moved toward the front hallway, careful not to make a sound. My hands were shaking, but I forced myself to stay calm, at least on the outside. Whoever was at that door, they weren't just here by accident. Not after everything Lily had told me. I motioned for her to stay back. She nodded, clutching the note in her hand like it was the only solid thing she had to hold on to. As I crept closer to the door, I peeked through the peephole. Empty porch. No one there. But the porch light was out, and the shadows on our front steps made it hard to tell if someone was just out of view. I waited a minute. Nothing. I slowly turned the deadbolt but didn't open the door. Something felt wrong. Like this whole thing had been planned and we were just now realizing how deep it went. I stepped away from the door and pulled the curtains back from the front window, just enough to get a better angle. That's when I saw it. A figure at the edge of the yard, near the side of the house. Dressed in dark clothing. Still. Watching. I couldn't see a face. Just the outline like a shadow that didn't belong. I backed away, heart pounding. I turned to Lily, who was now standing in the hallway. Go upstairs, I said quickly. Lock your door. Don't open it unless it's me. She didn't argue. She ran up the stairs without another word. I grabbed the flashlight from the kitchen drawer. Not much, but it was something. I thought about calling the police, but a part of me needed to know what was really going on first. I needed to see it for myself. Make sure I wasn't overreacting. I opened the back door slowly, stepping into the yard. The night air was colder than I expected. I scanned the area. The figure was gone. I walked around the side of the house, every sound amplified, my footsteps on the grass, the wind pushing through the trees. That's when I noticed it. The laundry room window, the screen had been pushed in. I crouched down, inspecting the frame. Dirt on the sill. Like someone had climbed through recently. I stood up quickly, scanning the backyard again, my grip on the flashlight tightening. Back inside the house, everything was quiet. Too quiet. I locked the door behind me and rushed up the stairs, calling Lily's name softly. No answer. Her bedroom door was closed, but I could see a faint light under it. I knocked. Lily. Still nothing. I opened the door slowly. She wasn't there. Her window was open. And on the floor right under it was her phone screen still lit, with a new message that simply read, "You shouldn't have told him." My heart sank as I stared at Lily's empty room. The cold air from the open window blew the curtains gently inward, and the silence felt heavier than anything I'd ever experienced. Her phone buzzed again on the floor. Another message. This one said, "Too late now." I picked it up, hands shaking, hoping for a clue. Something, anything that could tell me where she had gone. But there were no missed calls, no recent texts, no location sharing. Just those two chilling messages from an unknown number. I called out her name again, louder this time. Still no response. I checked the closet, under the bed, even the bathroom next door, all empty. For a second, I wondered if she had run. Maybe she was scared and trying to protect us. But something in my gut said no. She wouldn't have left her phone behind. Not unless someone had made her. Just as I was about to call the police, something caught my eye. A small piece of paper was wedged under her pillow. I pulled it out. It was a receipt, from a gas station 2 towns over. Time-stamped from earlier that afternoon. And on the back in her handwriting were 4 words, "Check the storage unit." I froze. A few months ago, we had rented a small storage unit on the edge of town for some of her mom's old furniture. Lily had only been there once with me, and she hadn't said much about it. It was just a place to keep things we didn't need. Or so I thought. Without wasting time, I grabbed the keys and rushed to my car. I didn't even tell her mom. Not yet. I couldn't bring myself to. Not until I knew exactly what was going on. The drive felt endless. My mind ran through every possibility. Was someone following her? Had she been hiding something there? Was she even the one who wrote that note? The storage facility was nearly empty when I pulled in. Dim lights flickered along the rows of metal doors. I parked in front of our unit and unlocked it, heart pounding in my chest. At first glance, everything looked the same: dusty chairs, a few old boxes, nothing out of place. But then I noticed a small black backpack shoved behind a stack of picture frames. It was hers. I pulled it out and unzipped it slowly. Inside were things I couldn't explain. A disposable phone, a flashlight, a notebook filled with drawings and numbers, and something that made my blood run cold: a photograph. It was a picture of our house, taken from across the street at night. The lights were off. The angle matched the same direction I'd seen that figure standing in the yard earlier. I flipped the photo over. There was a single sentence written in black ink. Asterisk, she knows the truth. Do you? Asterisk, I staggered back, trying to make sense of it. That's when I heard the unit door slam shut behind me. The lock clicked, and I realized I wasn't alone. I spun around as the metal door slammed shut, plunging the storage unit into near darkness. My flashlight dropped, the weak beam spinning wildly across the floor before settling on the old chair in the corner. I rushed to the door and yanked the handle. Locked. From the outside. My breath quickened, panic creeping in, but I forced myself to stay focused. Someone was out there, someone who knew I'd come. Someone who wanted me trapped. I turned back to the backpack, the photo still in my hand. Asterisk, she knows the truth. Do you? Asterisk, I didn't, not fully. But I was getting closer, and whoever was behind this clearly didn't want me to. Suddenly I heard a voice. Muffled. Then a second one. They were just outside the unit. Crouched low, trying to listen. A few words drifted in. We don't have much time. Then something about the file. I held my breath, my mind racing through every possible scenario. Was Lily here? Was she with them? Was this about something bigger than just creepy notes and strange figures? A few seconds later, the lock clicked again. The door creaked open and I braced myself. But it wasn't who I expected. It was Lily. Behind her stood a man, mid-30s, tall, wearing a worn jacket and a serious expression. I stepped back, confused. Lily? What's going on? She looked exhausted, pale, but calm. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I had to bring you here. I needed you to see it for yourself. Esther daher. You disappeared. You scared me half to death. Who is this guy? She glanced at the man. He gave a slight nod. His name's Mark, she said. He's my real dad. It hit me like a punch. What are you talking about? That's not possible. It is, she interrupted, voice steady now. Mom never told you. She didn't tell me until recently either. She thought it was best I didn't know. Mark stepped forward. I've been trying to stay out of her life for her safety. But then I found out she was being watched. Followed. I had to step in. Lily pulled something out of her pocket. A flash drive. Everything is on here. The files, the messages, the camera footage. Someone's been tracking us. Not just me. You too. That's why I had to act like I didn't trust you at first. I had to make sure it wasn't you. That you weren't involved. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why didn't you just tell me? Because I didn't know who to trust, she said. But now I do. Before I could respond, Mark's phone buzzed. He looked at it, his expression darkening. They know we're here. We rushed out of the storage unit, hearts pounding. Lily held onto the flash drive like it was her only lifeline. Just as we reached the car, headlights flashed across the lot. A black SUV pulled in fast, tires screeching. Mark pulled us down behind the car bumper. "Stay down," he whispered. And then from the vehicle stepped out someone I never expected to see. My wife, holding a phone, smiling. I couldn't move. My brain was still trying to catch up with what my eyes were seeing. My wife, Lily's mom, stood there, calm as ever, like she hadn't just pulled up in a black SUV with the headlights pointed right at us. She was holding her phone like she just finished making a call. And then she smiled. Not the warm kind of smile I'd known for years. This one was different. Controlled. Cold. Mark stood slowly, never taking his eyes off her. I followed, pulling Lily behind me. "What is this?" I asked, my voice shaky but louder than I expected. "What are you doing here?" She walked toward us slowly. "I told you I was running late," she said casually. I didn't say where I was coming from. Mark stepped in front of me. "She's been part of it. The surveillance. The files. The messages. She knew more than she let on. She just never thought Lily would figure it out." I turned to her, heart pounding. "Is that true? You were behind this?" She sighed like she was tired of pretending. "Not behind it. But I knew about it. Years ago I made a mistake. I trusted someone I shouldn't have. Someone who used me to get close to things I didn't fully understand at the time. And when I tried to cut ties, they started watching. All of us. I didn't know how deep it went until Lily started digging." Lily looked stunned. "You could have told me. You could have protected me." "I was trying to," she said quietly. "But once they saw you asking questions, it was too late. I couldn't risk them finding out I told you everything. So I kept playing along." Mark stepped closer. "She's telling part of the truth. But there's more." That's when everything started clicking. The notes. The feeling of being watched. The reason Lily was so scared to speak up. It wasn't just one person. It was a web of secrets, mistakes, and lies that had been growing for years. And somehow we'd all ended up in the middle of it. "I have the drive," Lily said, stepping forward. "Everything is on it. We're not hiding anymore." My wife looked at her, something soft flickering in her eyes. "You're braver than I ever was." Mark pulled out his phone and made a call. "It's done," he said simply. "We've got what we need." Within minutes, another car pulled up. This one unmarked. Two people stepped out, flashing badges I didn't recognize. Mark handed them the flash drive. No words were exchanged. Just a nod, and they drove off. We stood there for a long moment, the night finally still. Back home, things didn't go back to normal overnight. But there was peace, the kind that comes from truth finally being laid out in the open. Lily was safe. The surveillance stopped. Whatever secret group had been pulling strings in the background, they knew the game was over. And in the end, even after all the fear, confusion, and betrayal, what mattered most was this: Lily had found her voice. And none of us would ever ignore it again.